The white wedding dress clung to Amara's trembling body as she collapsed on the church steps, mascara bleeding down her dark skin in rivers of black, because David had taken everything, her apartment, her job, her dignity, before vanishing with his secretary, leaving her with exactly $43 and nowhere to sleep tonight. She pressed her face into her hands, the lace veil scratching her cheeks as sobs tore through her chest, and then tiny fingers touched her arm and a voice like bells said, "Don't cry, pretty lady." Amara looked up through blurred vision to see a little Korean girl with two perfect braids staring at her with huge, serious eyes that seemed far too old for her small face. "You need me," the child announced with the certainty only children possess. "And I need you. Will you be my mama?" Welcome to Afrokorean Stories. If this is pulling you in, hit that subscribe button right now because what comes next will change everything you thought you knew about love and loyalty. Before Amara could process those words, men in dark suits materialized from nowhere, their faces tight with panic, reaching for the girl who was now wrapping impossibly small arms around Amara's neck. "Miss Ji-woo, you cannot just run off like that," one man said in accented English, his voice strained with barely controlled fear. "Your father will have our heads," the other added, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "I don't care," Ji-woo said stubbornly, burying her face in Amara's ruined dress. "She's sad and alone and she needs someone, and I've been praying every single night for God to send me a new mama because my first mama went to heaven and this is her, I know it is." The simple declaration broke something in Amara's chest, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. What is happening here? The voice rolled over them like thunder, deep and commanding and laced with danger that made Amara's spine straighten instinctively. She raised her head and forgot how to breathe. The man walking toward them was devastating. Tall and lean with the kind of face that belonged in magazines, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, lips that looked carved from stone, and eyes so dark they seemed to hold entire universes of secrets. His black suit probably cost more than Amara had made in a year, tailored perfectly to his powerful frame. He moved like a predator, graceful and lethal, and everyone around him seemed to shrink back without even realizing it. This had to be Ji-woo's father, and he looked absolutely furious. "Sir, we're so sorry," one guard stammered, his face pale. "She saw this woman and just bolted. We tried to stop her but—" "Daddy!" Ji-woo interrupted, completely unafraid, her face lighting up with joy. "Look what I found. Isn't she beautiful? She's crying because someone was mean to her on her wedding day and left her all alone, and that's so sad and wrong, and I told her she could be my new mama because I prayed for one, and here she is." Amara wanted to disappear. Here she was, a complete mess in a destroyed wedding dress worth more than she could afford, being hugged by some wealthy man's daughter while looking like she'd been hit by a truck. She tried to speak, to apologize, to explain, but her throat closed up under the weight of his stare. Those dark eyes swept over her, taking in every detail, the crushed bouquet beside her, the mascara tracks on her brown skin, the way her hands shook, the absolute devastation written across her face. Something flickered in his expression, something that might have been understanding or sympathy, but it vanished so quickly Amara thought she'd imagined it. He moved closer, each step measured and deliberate, and Amara had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze when he stopped in front of him. He smelled expensive, cedar and something darker, more dangerous, and the heat radiating from his body made her skin prickle with awareness. "Ji-woo," he said softly, his voice gentler now but still carrying that undercurrent of command. "Let the woman go. We need to leave." "No," Ji-woo held on tighter, her little fingers digging into Amara's shoulders. "She needs us, Daddy. Look at her face. Her wedding person didn't come and now she's all alone and has nobody, and that's not fair, and I want to help her." The truth of those words hit Amara like a physical blow. She had nobody. Her family was back in Ghana, and the friends she'd made here in New York had all been David's friends first. She'd given up her nursing position when he'd convinced her they didn't need two incomes, that he'd take care of everything. Now she had nothing, no job, no home, no support system. Just $43 and the clothes on her back. "Please," Amara managed to whisper, gently trying to unwrap Ji-woo's arms. "Your father is right. You should go with him." But Ji-woo shook her head violently. "No. I prayed every single night for a mama and then I saw you and I just knew. God sent you to me. I know he did. The man's jaw tightened. He studied Amara with an intensity that made her feel stripped bare, like he could see every wound, every shame, every secret fear she carried. When his eyes met hers again, something electric passed between them, a recognition, a connection, something that made Amara's breath catch in her throat and her heart hammer against her ribs. "What is your name?" he asked. "Amara," she whispered. "Amara," he repeated, and her name sounded different in his mouth, intimate and possessive in a way that sent heat pooling low in her belly. "I am Min-jun Kang. This is my daughter, Jiwoo." He crouched down beside them, bringing himself to eye level with Amara, and this close she could see the perfection of his features, the thick lashes framing those dark eyes, the faint stubble along his jaw, the tiny scar above his left eyebrow. Her mouth went dry. "My daughter seems convinced you belong with us," he said quietly, his voice like velvet wrapped around steel. "She has not smiled this much since her mother died 3 years ago." "I'm so sorry," Amara said, her throat tight. "For your loss. Are you truly alone?" His eyes searched hers with that same unsettling intensity. "No one to call? Nowhere to go?" Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. Admitting it out loud made it real, made the fear and shame and desperation crash over her in waves. Min-jun was silent for a long moment, and Amara watched some decision form behind his eyes. He stood and pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone on the other end. When he finished, he looked back down at her, and there was something almost predatory in his expression now. "I need a nanny for Jiwoo," he said. "Someone who can live with us, care for her full-time, someone she trusts." He paused, holding Amara's gaze. "The job is yours if you want it." Amara stared at him in shock. "You don't even know me." "No," he agreed. "But my daughter does. And she has never been wrong about people." His voice dropped lower, sending shivers down Amara's spine. "Besides, something tells me you need this as much as we do." He was right. God help her, he was completely right. But moving in with a stranger? With this dangerous, beautiful man who made her pulse race just by looking at her? "I don't know," she started. "Please." Jiwoo squeezed her hand, her eyes wide and pleading. "Please say yes. I promise I'll be so good and Daddy is nice once you know him. He looks scary but he's not really, he gives the best hugs in the whole world." A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, expensive and gleaming, the door already opening. "Last chance, Amara," Min-jun said, extending his hand to help her up. "Come with us. Let us give you shelter, employment, a fresh start. Let my daughter have the person who makes her light up like the sun." His hand hung in the air between them, strong and elegant with long fingers. Amara looked at the church behind her where she'd been humiliated, where everyone she knew had watched her be rejected and abandoned. Then she looked at the man and child offering her something impossible, safety, purpose, a second chance. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately, warm and firm and sending electricity shooting straight up her arm. He pulled her to her feet effortlessly, and for a moment they stood too close, his hand still holding hers, his dark eyes boring into hers with an intensity that made her forget to breathe. The air between them felt charged, dangerous, full of promise and threat in equal measure. "You will not regret this," he said quietly, his voice like a physical caress. But as Amara climbed into the car with Jiwoo chattering excitedly beside her and Min-jun sliding in across from them, his eyes never leaving her face, she wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or walked straight into something that would consume her completely. The mansion made Amara's heart stop. It rose behind massive iron gates like something from a movie, glass and white stone and architectural perfection that seemed to touch the sky. Gardens stretched in every direction, manicured to impossible precision, fountains catching the afternoon light. Security cameras tracked their approach from every angle. "Welcome home," Min-jun said as the car glided to a stop. Home. The word felt foreign in Amara's mouth. The apartment she'd shared with David had never really been home, just a place she'd existed while trying to be the woman he wanted. Jiwoo grabbed her hand and pulled her inside, already chattering about all the things she wanted to show her. The interior was even more breathtaking, marble floors that gleamed like mirrors, crystal chandeliers that caught the light and scattered it like stars, artwork that Amara recognized from museum visits. Staff members bowed as Min-jun passed, their faces carefully neutral, but Amara caught their curious glances, the whispers that followed in their wake. "Your room is in the west wing, next to Ji-woo's," Min-jun said, his footsteps echoing in the vast hallway. "You will have everything you need. If something is missing, Mrs. Kim manages the household staff." An older Korean woman appeared as if summoned, her expression stern and disapproving as she looked Amara up and down, taking in every detail of the wrinkled wedding dress and smudged makeup. "Mrs. Kim, this is Amara. She will be caring for Ji-woo from now on. See that she has appropriate clothing and whatever else she requires." Mrs. Kim bowed stiffly. "Yes, sir." Amara's room was bigger than her entire old apartment had been. A massive bed dominated the space, dressed in silk sheets the color of champagne. French doors opened onto a balcony with a view of the gardens that stretched to the horizon. The bathroom had a tub big enough to swim in and fixtures that looked like they were made of gold. "Do you like it?" Ji-woo bounced on the bed with infectious enthusiasm. "It's beautiful," Amara said honestly, though part of her felt like an imposter in this palace. "But sweetie, are you sure about this?" "About me?" "Super duper sure." Ji-woo launched herself at Amara, wrapping her arms around her waist. "You feel right. Like you were supposed to find us." Over the following days, Amara learned the rhythm of her new life. She woke Ji-woo each morning, helped her dress in the expensive clothes that filled her closet, made breakfast while Min-jun read newspapers in his study. She took Ji-woo to the gardens to play, read her stories with voices for all the characters, tucked her into bed at night while the little girl fought sleep to tell just one more story. But she also learned other things that made unease curl in her stomach. Men in suits came and went at all hours, their voices low and urgent behind closed doors. Min-jun would disappear for days at a time, returning with shadows under his eyes and tension in his shoulders. The guards weren't just for show, they carried guns that she glimpsed when their jackets shifted. "What exactly does Mr. Kang do?" Amara asked Mrs. Kim carefully one afternoon while folding laundry. The older woman's face went hard as stone. "Mr. Kang's business is his concern. You are here for Miss Ji-woo. Remember your place." Amara tried to remember her place. But it was impossible to ignore the danger that hung over the house like a storm about to break. Impossible to ignore how people spoke Min-jun's name with a mixture of respect and fear. How visitors bowed deeper than seemed necessary. How silence fell when he entered a room. She knew what he was, even if nobody said it out loud. She'd seen enough movies, heard enough news stories. Min-jun Kang was a man who operated in shadows, who built his empire on things that happened when regular people weren't looking. She should have been terrified. Should have packed the few things she owned and run. But Ji-woo needed her, smiled at her with a joy that was impossible to fake, called her my Amara with such possession it made her heart ache. And Min-jun himself kept pulling her closer even as her brain screamed to stay away. He was always respectful, always polite, maintaining careful distance during the day. But sometimes she'd catch him watching her with those dark eyes, his expression unreadable but intense. Sometimes their hands would brush when he handed her Ji-woo's jacket, and electricity would spark between them, making her skin tingle. Sometimes he'd smile at something she said, a real smile that transformed his face, and warmth would flood through her entire body. It was dangerous. Completely, utterly insane. He was her employer, a man who lived in a world she didn't understand, a man still grieving his dead wife. But her heart didn't care about logic or propriety or common sense. 2 weeks after moving in, Amara couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, her mind spinning with thoughts of David, of her ruined wedding, of this strange new life that felt like a dream she might wake up from at any moment. She pulled on a silk robe Mrs. Kim had left for her and stepped onto the balcony, letting the cool night air wash over her heated skin. The gardens glowed under moonlight, peaceful and still and beautiful. For the first time since the wedding, Amara let herself really feel everything, the hurt, the humiliation, the bone-deep loneliness of being thrown away by someone she'd trusted with her whole heart. Cannot sleep either? Amara spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. Min-jun stood in the doorway to her room, wearing dark pants and an unbuttoned white shirt that showed his chest, his hair mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked tired and impossibly handsome and dangerous in ways that made her mouth go dry. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping at her eyes. "I didn't mean to disturb anyone." "You did not." He stepped onto the balcony, keeping a respectful distance but close enough that she could smell his cologne. "This is your home now too. You can use any space you wish." They stood in silence for a moment, Amara intensely aware of how little she wore under the thin robe, how the moonlight made his skin glow, how alone they were. "You are still hurting," he said quietly. "From what he did to you?" It wasn't a question. Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. "Tell me about him." She didn't want to. But something about the darkness, about Min-jun's presence beside her, made the words spill out. She told him about David, about how they'd met at the hospital where she worked, how he'd swept her off her feet with grand romantic gestures, how she'd left everything in Ghana to build a life with him here. How he'd convinced her to quit her job, told her she didn't need to work, made her depend completely on him for everything. And then he'd just left, she finished, her voice breaking. 3 years together and I got a note. That's all. Not even a conversation. Just a note saying he'd fallen in love with his secretary and couldn't marry me. He was a fool, Min-jun said, and there was such anger in his voice that Amara looked up in surprise. Worse than a fool. He made you vulnerable, dependent, then discarded you like garbage. Men like that deserve to suffer. The protective fury in his tone sent heat through Amara's body in ways she didn't want to examine. "It's my fault too," she said. "I let him control everything. I stopped being my own person." "No." Min-jun moved closer, suddenly near enough that she could feel his body heat. "Do not blame yourself for trusting someone. That is not weakness. That is courage." His eyes held hers, dark and burning with an intensity that made her knees weak. "Why did you really offer me this job?" Amara whispered. "Because Jiwoo needs you," he said. Then, in a lower voice, "and because when I saw you on those steps, broken and alone, something in me recognized something in you. We are the same, Amara. Both abandoned by people we loved. Both trying to survive in the wreckage." "Your wife," Amara said softly. "Jiwoo said she died." "What happened?" Pain flickered across Min-jun's face. He turned to look at the gardens, his jaw tight. "Cancer. It took her in 6 months. Fast and brutal. She was Jiwoo's whole world. My whole world. When she died, part of me died too. I have been walking through life like a ghost for 3 years." "I'm sorry," Amara said, and meant it with her whole heart. "I stopped feeling anything," Min-jun continued, still not looking at her. "Emotions became dangerous in my line of work anyway. I built walls so high nothing could get through. I focused on business, on keeping Jiwoo safe, on surviving each day. That was enough." He turned back to face her, and the look in his eyes made Amara's heart race. "Until you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning that made it hard to breathe. "Min-jun," Amara breathed. "I see you with my daughter and I feel warmth again," he said, moving even closer, so close she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "I hear you laugh and something inside me wakes up. I watch you move through my house and suddenly it feels like a home instead of a prison." His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to pull away, to stop this before it went too far. When she didn't move, he cupped her cheek with a gentleness that made her eyes sting with tears. "You are bringing me back to life, Amara, and it terrifies me." "I'm terrified too," she admitted, leaning into his touch without meaning to. "You're dangerous. Your world is dangerous. I should run as far away as possible." "But you will not," he said, his thumb stroking her cheekbone, sending shivers cascading down her spine. "No," she whispered. "I won't." "Why?" "Because you make me feel safe even though you're the most dangerous thing in my life," she thought. "Because when you look at me I feel beautiful again. Because Jiwoo loves me and I love her and you're part of that package. Because even though we're both broken maybe we can heal each other. Because I see you too, she said instead. The real you underneath all the walls and danger. And I'm not afraid of that person. Min-jun's eyes darkened with desire and something deeper, more primal. His other hand came up to cradle her face, tilting it toward his. If we do this, he said roughly, his voice like gravel and silk, if we cross this line, there is no going back. You will be mine, Amara. In my world, I do not share. I do not let go. Once I claim you, you are mine forever. The possessive words should have scared her. Instead they set her on fire. Then claim me, she whispered. Min-jun's control shattered. He pulled her against him and kissed her like a man drowning, and she was air, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. His lips were firm and demanding, taking and giving at the same time, and Amara melted into him, her hand sliding up his chest to grip his shoulders. The kiss was everything, desperate and tender, rough and careful, filled with 3 years of loneliness from both of them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jun pressed his forehead to hers. I have not kissed anyone since my wife died, he confessed. I thought I never would again. I haven't wanted anyone to touch me since David left, Amara said. I thought I was too broken. We are both broken, Min-jun kissed her again, softer this time. But maybe we can be broken together. They stood wrapped in each other's arms under the moonlight, two damaged souls finding comfort in the darkness. And for the first time since her wedding day, Amara felt like maybe, just maybe, being abandoned at the altar was the best thing that ever happened to her, because it led her here, to this man, to this moment, to the beginning of something that felt like destiny. If you're loving Amara and Min-jun's story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because trust me, it's about to get even more intense. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Is this the second chance romance we all need? Keep watching because things are about to change in ways you won't see coming. Everything shifted after that first kiss. Amara woke the next morning with Min-jun's taste still on her lips and butterflies rioting in her stomach. She told herself to be professional, to focus on caring for Ji-woo, to pretend nothing had happened. That lasted exactly 12 minutes. She walked into the kitchen to make breakfast and found Min-jun already there, leaning against the counter with a coffee cup in his hand. He was dressed for business in a sharp charcoal suit, his hair perfectly styled, but when his eyes met hers, heat flooded through her entire body. Good morning, he said, his voice dropping to that intimate tone from last night. Morning, Amara managed, suddenly very aware that she wore only pajama shorts and a tank top. His gaze traveled slowly down her body and back up, lingering on her curves in ways that made her skin tingle with awareness. Did you sleep well? He asked. Not really, she moved to the refrigerator, trying to act normal even though her heart was racing. I kept thinking about things. What kind of things? He set down his coffee and moved closer. Min-jun, she warned, glancing at the doorway. Someone could walk in. Let them, but he respected her concern, stopping just close enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. I want to take you to dinner tonight. A real date. What about Ji-woo? Mrs. Kim can watch her for a few hours. His hand reached out, fingers brushing her wrist so lightly it might have been an accident except nothing about Min-jun was accidental. Say yes, Amara. She should say no. This was moving too fast, getting too complicated, crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. But when she looked into his dark eyes and saw the hope there, the vulnerability he showed no one else, she couldn't resist. Yes. His smile transformed his whole face, making him look younger, almost boyish, and devastatingly beautiful. Before either of them could say more, they heard Ji-woo's footsteps running down the hall. Min-jun stepped back quickly, creating proper distance, but his eyes stayed on Amara, promising things that made her blush. Keeping their relationship secret proved impossible. Not from Ji-woo, who was too young to notice the tension crackling between the adults, but from everyone else in the house. The stolen moments became addictive. Min-jun would find Amara in the library and pull her between the bookshelves, kissing her breathless while his hands explored her curves. She'd bring him coffee in his study and he'd tug her onto his lap, nuzzling her neck until she gasped his name. They'd pass each other in hallways and he'd catch her wrist, pressing her against the wall for kisses that left them both aching for more. "This is dangerous," Amara whispered one afternoon when he'd cornered her in the empty dining room, his lips doing incredible things to the sensitive spot behind her ear. "I know," he murmured against her skin. "I do not care." His hands slid under her shirt, fingers tracing her ribs, and Amara forgot why she'd been protesting. She pulled his face up to hers and kissed him deeply, pouring all her want and need into it. "Sir, the meeting starts in 5 minutes." They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Sung-ho stood in the doorway, Min-jun's right-hand man and head of security. His expression was carefully neutral, but Amara saw disapproval in his eyes, concern that made her uncomfortable. "I will be right there," Min-jun said coolly, already back in control. Sung-ho nodded and left, but not before giving Amara a look that clearly said this was a mistake. "Do not worry about him," Min-jun said, straightening his tie. "Sung-ho worries about everything." But Amara did worry, because she saw how the staff whispered when she passed, how the guards exchanged glances when Min-jun touched her hand at dinner, how Mrs. Kim's disapproval grew colder each day. Their dinner date happened 3 nights later. Min-jun took her to a restaurant so exclusive it didn't have a name, just an address that only certain people knew. They sat in a private room with silk walls and candlelight, completely alone. "This is beautiful," Amara said, looking around in wonder. She wore a black dress that Mrs. Kim had grudgingly provided, simple but elegant. "You are beautiful," Min-jun reached across the table to take her hand. "I cannot stop looking at you." The evening felt like a dream. They talked about everything, learning each other in ways the stolen moments didn't allow. He told her about growing up poor in Seoul, about building his empire from nothing, about the choices he'd made that led him down this dark path. She told him about her childhood in Accra, her dreams of becoming a doctor before money ran out, how nursing had been her compromise with reality. "You should go back to school," Min-jun said seriously. "Study medicine like you wanted. I will pay for everything." "I can't let you do that." "Why not?" "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Let me use it for something good. For you." The way he said it, like investing in her dreams was the most natural thing in the world, made Amara's throat tight with emotion. After dinner they walked through the restaurant's private garden. Min-jun pulled her close, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders against the cool air. "I have not been this happy in years," he admitted quietly. "You have given me something I thought I had lost forever." "What's that?" "Hope." He turned her to face him, his hands framing her face. "Hope that life can be more than just surviving. That I can feel joy again. That maybe I deserve a second chance at love." "You do," Amara said fiercely. "You deserve everything good, Min-jun." He kissed her then, deep and slow and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, his eyes burned with desire. "Come home with me," he said roughly. "To my room." "I want you, Amara. I want to show you exactly how much you mean to me." Her whole body went hot. "Min-jun, I don't know if we should move that fast. We will only do what you are comfortable with." His thumb traced her bottom lip, sending shivers down her spine. "But I need to hold you, to touch you properly, to make you feel how much I want you. Please." How could she resist when he looked at her like that, when every cell in her body was screaming yes? She nodded, and the hunger that flashed across his face made her knees weak. They barely made it through the front door before he was kissing her again, backing her against the wall with his body pressed to hers, his hands everywhere, reverent and desperate at the same time. Amara clutched his shoulders, drowning in sensation. "My room," he growled against her mouth. "Now." They stumbled up the stairs together, stopping every few steps to kiss again, unable to keep their hands off each other. By the time they reached his bedroom, Amara's dress was half unzipped and Min-jun's shirt was untucked and they were both breathing hard. His room was masculine and spare, dominated by a massive bed. He locked the door behind them and turned to her, his expression raw with need. "Tell me you want this," he said. "Tell me you want me." "I want you," Amara whispered. "So much it scares me." Min-jun crossed to her in 2 strides, capturing her mouth in a searing kiss. His hand slid the dress off her shoulders, letting it pool at her feet. He stepped back to look at her in just her underwear, his eyes drinking in every curve. "Perfect," he breathed. "You are absolutely perfect." For the first time since David left her, Amara felt truly beautiful. Min-jun looked at her like she was treasure, like he couldn't believe his luck. When he touched her, his hands were gentle but possessive, claiming every inch of her skin. He carried her to the bed and showed her exactly how much he wanted her, kissing every part of her body until she trembled beneath him. They explored each other slowly, learning what made the other gasp and moan. When they finally came together, it felt like coming home, like finding something she hadn't even known she'd been searching for. Afterward, Amara lay in his arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "Stay tonight," he murmured. "Sleep here with me." "What about Jiwoo? What will everyone think?" "I do not care what they think," he kissed her forehead. "But we will be discreet for Jiwoo's sake. For now." Amara dozed off, feeling safe and wanted and deliciously satisfied. For the first time in forever, the future looked bright. She woke to harsh voices outside the door. "You are being reckless." That was Sung-ho, his voice tight with anger. "Do you know what people are saying? The Kang family head is distracted by some woman. You are showing weakness." "Lower your voice," Min-jun said coldly from somewhere in the room. "And watch how you speak about her." "Sir, please listen. The Han family is watching for any opening. If they think you are vulnerable because of her, they will strike. She is a target now." Amara sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. Min-jun stood by the window, fully dressed, his expression carved from stone. When he heard her move, his face softened immediately. "Give us a minute," he told Sung-ho. His right-hand man shot Amara a look that might have been pity before leaving, closing the door behind him. Min-jun came to sit on the edge of the bed, taking her hand. "What did he mean?" Amara asked, fear creeping in. "That I'm a target? My world has enemies. People who would use anything to hurt me." His jaw clenched. "If they know I care about you, they might try to use you against me. Maybe we should stop this then. Before someone gets hurt." "No." His hand tightened on hers, almost painful. "I am not giving you up, Amara. I will increase security, keep you safe, but I will not let them take you from me. Min-jun, I'm not worth starting a war over." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "You are worth everything. Do you understand? You brought me back to life. I will not lose you. Not to my enemies, not to fear, not to anything." His intensity should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel cherished in a way she'd never experienced before. "Promise me you'll be careful," she whispered against his chest. "I promise. And I promise that anyone who tries to hurt you will regret it for the rest of their very short life." The darkness in his voice reminded Amara exactly who she was falling in love with, a dangerous man who lived in a dangerous world, a man who would kill to protect what was his. And she was his now. Completely, utterly his. The question was whether that would save her or destroy her. 2 weeks passed in careful bliss. Min-jun doubled security around the mansion, assigned guards to follow Amara everywhere, made sure she understood the rules, stay alert, don't go anywhere alone, trust no one outside the family. Amara tried not to feel suffocated by it all, the guards, the cameras, the constant watching. But she understood. In Min-jun's world, love came with a price. "I need to go shopping," she told Mrs. Kim one afternoon. "Jiwoo's growing out of everything." Mrs. Kim nodded stiffly. "I will arrange for guards. Can I at least pick which ones? The one who follows me to the bathroom makes me uncomfortable." For the first time ever, Mrs. Kim's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "I will send Dimitri and Ken. They are professionals." The mall was crowded with afternoon shoppers. Amara browsed through children's clothes with Dimitri trailing 3 steps behind and Ken covering the entrance. She picked out cute dresses for Jiwoo, imagining the little girl's excited squeals. "Miss Amara, we should leave soon," Dimitri said quietly. Too many people. Too many exits. Just 5 more minutes. I want to find her a birthday present. Jiwoo's 7th birthday was next week and Amara wanted it to be perfect. She wandered toward the toy section, completely focused on finding the perfect doll, which is why she didn't notice the man approaching until he was right beside her. "Excuse me, miss, can you help me reach that toy on the top shelf?" Amara turned with a polite smile. The man was young, friendly-looking, wearing a mall employee uniform. "Sure, which one?" The moment she stepped closer, his hand shot out and clamped over her mouth. Something sharp pricked her neck. The world tilted sideways. She heard Dimitri shout. Heard gunshots. Saw people screaming and running. Then everything went black. Amara woke to pain. Her head throbbed like something was trying to crack her skull open from the inside. Her wrists burned from tight ropes and her mouth was dry as sand. She blinked in the darkness, trying to remember where she was. A warehouse. She could tell from the echoing sounds, the smell of oil and rust and something rotten. Dim light filtered through high windows showing concrete floors and metal beams. She was tied to a metal chair, her arms wrenched behind her back at an angle that made her shoulders scream. She's awake. A man stepped into view, older with gray hair and a cruel smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. He wore an expensive suit that didn't match the dirty surroundings. "Miss Amara," he said in accented English. "Welcome. I am Chairman Han. You have been causing my organization some problems." "I don't know what you're talking about," Amara said, her voice shaking despite her efforts to sound brave. "No?" Chairman Han laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You have distracted Min-jun Kang. Made him soft. Weak. He used to be sharp as a knife, always watching, always 3 steps ahead. But now," he leaned closer, his breath hot and sour, "now he is too busy playing house with his dead wife's replacement to notice us moving against him." Anger cut through Amara's fear like a blade. "I'm not replacing anyone. It does not matter. What matters is that you are valuable to him. And that makes you valuable to me." He pulled out a phone and snapped a photo of Amara tied up, tears streaking her face, terror in her eyes. This should get his attention. "He'll kill you," Amara said with absolute certainty, thinking of the darkness she'd seen in Min-jun's eyes, the barely leashed violence. "He'll hunt you down and kill you." "He will try," Chairman Han shrugged. "But first he will negotiate. He will give me what I want to get you back. Territory. Access. Money." He leaned close again, his breath making her stomach turn. "Unless he takes too long. Then I will send him pieces of you until he cooperates. Maybe a finger first. Then an ear. Then..." Terror flooded through Amara but she refused to let it show, refused to give this monster the satisfaction. She thought of Min-jun, of Jiwoo, of the life she'd just started to build. She couldn't die in this dirty warehouse. Not now. Not when she'd finally found happiness. Somewhere in the distance she heard shouting. Gunfire. Closer now. Chairman Han's smile vanished. "What is happening?" he barked at his men. The warehouse door exploded inward with a deafening crash that made Amara's ears ring. Men in black tactical gear flooded through like a dark wave, weapons raised, moving with military precision. And leading them, fury carved into every line of his face, was Min-jun. Amara had never seen him like this. He moved like violence personified, like death given human form, a gun in each hand, his eyes burning with rage that made him look almost inhuman. He shot 2 of Han's men before they could even raise their weapons, perfect headshots that dropped them instantly. The others scattered but Min-jun's team was everywhere, cutting off escape routes, hemming them in. "Touch her and you die where you stand," Min-jun said to Chairman Han, his voice dead calm in a way that was more terrifying than screaming. Han grabbed Amara, pressing a knife to her throat. The blade was cold against her skin. "Stay back. I'll kill her. I swear I'll." Min-jun didn't even hesitate. He shot the knife out of Han's hand with impossible precision, the bullet so close to Amara's face she felt the wind of it passing. Then he crossed the space between them in seconds, grabbed the older man by the throat and slammed him against the wall so hard the concrete cracked. "You touched what is mine." Each word was punctuated by slamming Han against the wall again, the sound of bone hitting concrete making Amara flinch. "Do you understand what you have done?" "Min-jun," Amara called weakly. "Please." His head whipped toward her and the murder in his eyes softened instantly, completely. He dropped Han in a heap and rushed to Amara, pulling a knife to cut through the ropes binding her. "I have got you," he murmured, catching her as she collapsed forward, his arms coming around her like steel bands. "I have got you, baby. You are safe now." Amara buried her face in his chest and sobbed, all the fear and terror pouring out in waves. Min-jun held her so tight she could barely breathe, one hand cradling her head, the other wrapped around her waist like he was afraid she'd disappear. "Sung-ho, clean this up," he ordered without looking away from Amara. "Make sure Han understands the consequences of his actions. Permanently." "With pleasure, sir," Sung-ho said, and there was something dark in his voice that made Amara shiver. Min-jun carried Amara out of the warehouse like she weighed nothing, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. He settled her in the back of his car, climbing in beside her and pulling her onto his lap. Even as the car sped toward home, he couldn't stop touching her, his hands running over her arms, her face, her hair, checking for injuries like he needed the physical proof she was real and whole. "Did they hurt you?" His voice was rough with barely controlled emotion. "Tell me the truth." "Just scared me. And the injection to knock me out." She showed him the small puncture wound on her neck. "How did you find me so fast?" "I have tracking devices sewn into all your clothes," his jaw clenched. The second Dimitri's panic button went off, "I knew. I had every available man searching. Called in favors from people I have not spoken to in years. I would have burned this entire city down to find you." The intensity in his voice made Amara shiver. "You came for me." "Of course I came for you. Did you think I would not?" He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You are mine, Amara. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to love. Nothing and no one will take you from me. Do you understand?" "Yes," she whispered. "I love you." The words burst from him like they'd been locked inside too long. "I am completely, desperately in love with you. When I got that photo of you tied up, something inside me broke. I realized that if I lost you, I would have nothing left worth living for." Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks. "I love you too. So much. I was so scared I'd never get to tell you." He kissed her then, fierce and claiming and full of relief, like he was trying to convince himself she was really there, really safe. "Never again," he said against her lips. "I am never letting you out of my sight again." They made it home just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Min-jun carried Amara straight to his room, ignoring everyone's questions and concerns, his focus entirely on her. He set her gently on the bed and locked the door behind them. "I need to see that you are okay," he said, his hands already reaching for her torn shirt. "I need to touch every part of you and know you are really here." Amara understood completely. She needed the same thing, needed to feel alive, to feel safe, to feel loved after coming so close to death. They undressed each other slowly, checking for bruises and cuts, kissing every mark they found. When Min-jun's fingers traced the rope burns on her wrists, his eyes went dark with fury again. "They will pay for this. Every mark on your body, they will pay for." "I don't want to think about them right now," Amara pulled him down to her, wrapping her legs around his waist. "I just want you. Please, Min-jun, make me forget everything except us." He made love to her like she was precious and fragile but also like he needed to reclaim every inch of her, like he needed to erase the memory of other hands touching her. His hands and mouth were everywhere, worshipping her body, reminding her that she was safe, that she was his, that she was loved. "You are my everything," he whispered against her skin between kisses. "My reason for breathing. My heart outside my body." "Show me," Amara gasped, her fingers digging into his shoulders. "Show me how much you love me." He did, over and over until they were both exhausted and satisfied, their bodies tangled together in the sheets. Amara lay with her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling more content than she'd ever been despite the terror of the day. "Marry me." Amara's head shot up. "What?" Min-jun sat up slightly, reaching for something on his nightstand. When he turned back, he held a small black box. Inside was the most beautiful ring Amara had ever seen, a huge diamond surrounded by smaller stones that sparkled in the lamplight like captured stars. "Marry me, Amara." Not because Jiwoo needs a mother, though she does. Not because it is convenient or practical. Marry me because I am desperately, completely in love with you. Because you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy. His hands shook slightly as he held the ring, and the sight of this powerful, dangerous man nervous about asking her to marry him made Amara's heart overflow with love. "When I thought I might lose you today," he continued, his voice breaking, "I realized I had been wasting time playing it safe. But there is no safe in my world. There is only now, this moment, this choice. I choose you, Amara. I will always choose you. So please, say you will choose me too." Amara couldn't see through her tears, happy tears this time, so different from the ones she'd cried at her first wedding. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you. I love you so much, Min-jun." He slid the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, like it was made for her. Then he was kissing her again, laughing against her mouth, pulling her close. "You have made me the happiest man alive," he said between kisses. "I promise I will spend every day earning you." "You already have." Amara held up her hand, watching the ring catch the light. "When do you want to do this?" "Tomorrow." "Today." "Right now if possible," he grinned, looking younger and more carefree than she'd ever seen him. "But we should probably tell Jiwoo first. She will want to plan everything." They stayed up for hours talking about the future, about their wedding, about the life they'd build together. And when they finally fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, Amara knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. She'd been abandoned at the altar once, left standing alone in front of everyone. But this time her groom would move heaven and earth to get to her. This time love was real and deep and forever. This time she was choosing right. "I'm getting a real mom." Jiwoo shrieked the next morning, bouncing on Amara's bed with so much energy it was almost supernatural. "I knew it. I told you God sent you to us. I told everyone." Amara laughed, pulling the excited little girl into her arms, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. "You were absolutely right, sweetie. Can I be the flower girl? Please, please, please. I'll be so good. I'll practice walking slowly and not running and I'll hold the flowers perfect and." "Of course you can be the flower girl." Amara kissed the top of Jiwoo's head. "You're the most important person at this wedding. Without you, your daddy and I never would have met." Min-jun appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work but smiling at the scene before him. "My two favorite girls planning the wedding without me. Daddy." Jiwoo launched herself at him and he caught her easily, spinning her around. "Amara said I can be the flower girl. I would not have it any other way, princess." He met Amara's eyes over Jiwoo's head and the love there made her breath catch. "How about we all have breakfast together? We have a lot to discuss." The reality of planning a wedding in Min-jun's world hit Amara quickly. This wasn't going to be a simple ceremony. He was the head of one of the most powerful families in the city. Every business partner, every ally, every connection would need to be invited. The wedding wasn't just about them, it was a statement, a declaration of power. "I need you to meet some people," Min-jun told her a few days later. "Family members, business associates. They will want to judge whether you are suitable." "Judge me?" Amara's stomach twisted with nerves. "They will not find you lacking." He pulled her close, his hand settling on her waist. "But they will test you anyway. My world is complicated, baby. People will want to see if you are strong enough to stand beside me. What if I'm not? You are. You survived being kidnapped and came out stronger. You handled Jiwoo better than anyone ever has. You look at my life, at all the darkness and danger, and you still choose to stay, he kissed her forehead. You are exactly strong enough. The first family dinner happened that weekend. Amara dressed carefully in an elegant navy dress that Mrs. Kim had grudgingly approved of, adding a pearl necklace that had belonged to Min-jun's mother. Her engagement ring caught the light as she smoothed her hands over the fabric nervously. You look stunning, Min-jun said, appearing behind her in the mirror. He wrapped his arms around her waist, nuzzling her neck. Good enough to skip dinner and stay here instead. Don't tempt me, but Amara leaned back into his embrace, drawing strength from his presence. The dining room was full of people when they entered, Min-jun's uncle, a severe man named Director Cho, his cousin Hyejin, a beautiful woman with calculating eyes, various business partners whose names Amara struggled to remember. They all went quiet when she and Min-jun walked in hand. Everyone, this is Amara, Min-jun announced, his voice full of pride. My fiancé. The woman I am going to marry. Amara met each person's eyes steadily, refusing to show fear even though her heart raced like a trapped bird. Director Cho spoke first. You are the nanny. The one who was abandoned at her wedding. I was, Amara said calmly, lifting her chin. Best thing that ever happened to me. Otherwise I never would have found this family. Hyejin's lips curved in a cold smile. How convenient for you. Landing a rich man after being rejected by a poor one. Hyejin. Min-jun's voice went deadly quiet, the temperature in the room dropping 10 degrees. You will apologize to my future wife. Now. The room went silent. Hyejin's face paled but she bowed her head stiffly. My apologies. I spoke out of turn. Amara touched Min-jun's hand gently. It's okay. I understand the concern. You all want to protect him. I would too if I were in your position. She looked around the table, making sure everyone heard her next words clearly. I'm not here for his money. I'm here because I love him and his daughter with my whole heart. I'll stand beside him through anything, support him however I can, and do whatever it takes to make this family stronger. That's my promise to all of you. The sincerity in her voice must have shone through because Director Cho nodded slowly. Time will tell if those are just pretty words. But you have spirit. That is something at least. The dinner continued with less hostility. Amara answered their questions honestly, about her background, her nursing experience, her dreams for the future. Min-jun's hand found hers under the table, squeezing reassuringly every time someone asked something difficult. By the end of the evening she'd won over most of the room. Director Cho even smiled at her once. Hyejin remained cold but respectful. You were magnificent, Min-jun told her later as they got ready for bed, his hands working the zipper of her dress down slowly, his lips trailing kisses along her spine. The way you handled them, the way you defended yourself without being defensive. I have never been more proud. I was terrified, Amara admitted, turning in his arms. You were stronger than you know. He lifted her and carried her to the bed, laying her down gently. Let me show you how much I appreciate my brave, beautiful fiancé. He worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, taking his time, learning every response that made her gasp and tremble. When they finally came together it was slow and deep and filled with emotion that made her eyes sting with tears. I love you, he whispered against her lips as they moved together. My perfect match. My everything. I love you too, Amara gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders. So much it scares me. Do not be scared. I have got you. Always. The weeks leading up to the wedding flew by in a whirlwind. Jiwoo was involved in every decision, from picking flowers to tasting cake. She took her flower girl duties very seriously, practicing her walk every single day. Amara watched Min-jun change during this time. He smiled more, laughed with Jiwoo, came home earlier from work. The cold, dangerous man she'd first met was still there, but now he was balanced by warmth and joy and hope. I am restructuring some business operations, he told her one night as they lay tangled in bedsheets, both satisfied and sleepy. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. Getting out of the parts that are too dangerous. I want a future where I come home to you every night. Where Jiwoo does not have to worry about her daddy getting hurt. Can you really do that? Just step back? It will not be easy. But yes. I have been in this life long enough, built enough power and money to protect what matters. Now I want to actually enjoy it. He pulled her closer, his lips brushing her forehead. I want to grow old with you, Amara. Watch Jiwoo graduate. Have more children if you want them. Travel the world. I want a real life, not just survival. Tears pricked Amara's eyes. I want that too. All of it. They made love again, slower this time, savoring every touch and kiss. And afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, Amara knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The night before the wedding, they spent apart at Mrs. Kim's insistence. It is tradition, the older woman said firmly. Bad luck to see each other. Amara stayed in her room with Jiwoo, who was too excited to sleep. They painted their nails, talked about the ceremony, and Jiwoo shared stories about her mother that made Amara's heart ache with tenderness. She would have liked you, Jiwoo said seriously, her little face solemn. She always told Daddy to find someone who made him laugh again. You do that. I hope so, Amara said, hugging the little girl close. And I hope you know I'm not trying to replace your mom. She'll always be your first mom. I'm just lucky enough to be your second one. I love you, Amara, Jiwoo said, looking up at her with tears in her eyes. Thank you for choosing us. I love you too, sweetheart. Thank you for choosing me first. They fell asleep cuddled together, and Amara dreamed of wedding dresses and flower petals and a man with dark eyes who looked at her like she hung the moon and stars just for him. Tomorrow she'd marry him. Tomorrow she'd officially become part of this family. Tomorrow her real life would begin. And unlike the first time she'd prepared to walk down an aisle, Amara knew with absolute certainty that her groom would be waiting. This time, love was real. This time, forever meant forever. This time, she was exactly where she belonged. Amara woke on her wedding day to sunlight streaming through the windows and Jiwoo jumping on her bed like she'd had 17 cups of coffee. It's wedding day. Wedding day. You're going to be my real mom today. Laughing, Amara pulled the excited girl into her arms. I already am your real mom, sweetie. Today just makes it official. Mrs. Kim appeared in the doorway, her expression softer than Amara had ever seen it, almost motherly. Time to get ready. We have much to do. The next few hours passed in a blur of hair and makeup and the most beautiful dress Amara had ever worn. White silk and lace flowed around her like water, making her feel like royalty. The stylist wove flowers into her dark hair, and when Amara finally looked in the mirror she barely recognized herself. You look like an angel, Jiwoo breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. The little girl wore a pink dress with flowers matching Amara's bouquet, looking like a princess herself. You look beautiful too, flower girl, Amara knelt carefully, mindful of her dress. Are you ready for this? Ready to become a family officially? I've been ready since the day I met you, Jiwoo threw her arms around Amara's neck, careful not to mess up her hair. I love you so much. I love you too, my sweet girl. Mrs. Kim cleared her throat, and when Amara looked up the older woman had tears in her eyes. Mr. Kang is a lucky man. I was wrong about you. You have brought life back to this house, back to that man and his daughter. Thank you. The words meant more than Amara could express. She stood and hugged Mrs. Kim, both women crying happy tears. The ceremony was being held in the mansion's gardens, transformed into something magical. White flowers covered every surface, crystal decorations caught the sunlight like diamonds, and hundreds of guests filled elegant chairs. Music played softly as Amara waited behind the house with Jiwoo, her heart racing but her hands steady. Nervous? Sung-ho asked, appearing beside them. He looked uncomfortable in his formal suit. Not even a little bit, Amara said honestly. I know exactly where I belong. He nodded approvingly. Good. The boss has been pacing for an hour. I have never seen him this anxious. That made Amara smile. Powerful, dangerous Min-jun Kang, nervous about marrying her. The music changed, becoming the wedding march. Jiwoo squeezed Amara's hand once, then started down the aisle carefully, dropping rose petals and beaming at everyone. Whispers of "so cute and adorable" followed her progress. Then it was Amara's turn. She stepped into view and the entire crowd went silent. But Amara only had eyes for one person. Min-jun stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, and the look on his face when he saw her made her heart stop. Love, desire, reverence, and pure joy mixed together in an expression so raw it took her breath away. His eyes shone with unshed tears. She walked toward him slowly, drinking in every detail, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides like he was physically restraining himself from running to her. His chest rose and fell with quick breaths, his eyes never left her face. When she finally reached him, he took her hands in his and she felt him trembling. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I cannot believe you are mine." "Believe it," Amara whispered back. "I'm yours. Completely and forever." The officiant began speaking but Amara barely heard the words. She was lost in Min-jun's eyes, in the feeling of his hands holding hers, in the absolute certainty that this was right. "Do you, Min-jun Kang, take Amara to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love, honor and cherish, in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, as long as you both shall live?" "I do," his voice rang out clear and strong, full of conviction. "With everything I am, I do." "And do you, Amara, take Min-jun Kang to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love, honor and cherish, in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, as long as you both shall live?" Amara smiled through happy tears. "I do. Always and forever, I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Min-jun didn't hesitate. He pulled Amara against him and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world, deep and passionate and claiming. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers but neither of them noticed. "Mine," he murmured against her lips. "Finally, completely mine." "Yours," she agreed breathlessly. "And you're mine." When they finally broke apart, both grinning like fools, Jiwoo launched herself at them. Min-jun scooped her up with one arm while keeping the other around Amara. "We're a family now," Jiwoo announced to everyone. "I told you she'd be my mom. I told everyone." The guests laughed warmly, and Amara saw Director Cho wiping his eyes, even Hyejin dabbing at tears with a handkerchief. The reception was magnificent, music, dancing, food that tasted like heaven. Amara met more business associates and family members but this time she stood confidently at Min-jun's side as his equal, his wife, his partner. "I need you alone," Min-jun growled in her ear during their first dance, his hand on her lower back pulling her indecently close. "I have been fantasizing about getting you out of this dress all day." "Soon," Amara promised, her body heating at the desire in his voice. "We have to stay a little longer. I am giving it one more hour. Then I am carrying you out of here whether we have said goodbye to everyone or not." He kept his word. Exactly 1 hour later he swept Amara into his arms and carried her through the crowd toward the house, ignoring the catcalls and laughter. Jiwoo waved goodbye happily, already in Mrs. Kim's care for the night. "Where are we going?" Amara laughed, clinging to his neck. "Our room, where I am going to make love to my wife properly." The word sent shivers through her. Wife. She was his wife now. Min-jun kicked the bedroom door closed behind them and set Amara on her feet. For a moment they just looked at each other, the reality sinking in. "We did it," she whispered. "We're married." "We are married," he repeated, reaching up to carefully remove the flowers from her hair. "You are mine forever now. No take-backs." "I wouldn't take it back even if I could." Amara turned so he could unzip her dress. "This is exactly where I want to be." The dress pulled at her feet, leaving her in white lace that made Min-jun's breath catch. "My beautiful wife," he said reverently, his hands skimming her curves. "I am going to spend all night showing you how much I love you." He did exactly that, making love to her slowly, savoring every touch and kiss, both overwhelmed by the emotions of the day. Min-jun whispered promises against her skin between kisses, promises to love her forever, protect her always, make her happy every single day. I never thought I could feel this way again, he confessed as they lay tangled together afterward, both breathless and satisfied. After my first wife died, I was certain that part of my life was over. Then you crashed into my world in a wedding dress and everything changed. I never thought I'd get a second chance at love either, Amara said, tracing patterns on his chest. David leaving me felt like the end of everything. But it was actually the beginning. The beginning of us. Thank God for that, Min-jun said fervently, pulling her closer. Thank God he was an idiot who did not see what he had. His loss is my gain. The months that followed were the happiest of Amara's life. She settled into her role as Min-jun's wife and Ji-woo's mother completely. She continued her business classes, started helping with the legitimate parts of Min-jun's empire, and discovered she was actually brilliant at it. Min-jun kept his promise to step back from the dangerous parts of his business. He restructured his operations, delegated more, focused on legal ventures. It wasn't easy and there were still dangerous moments, but he was committed to building a safer future for his family. I have something to tell you, Amara said one morning 3 months after the wedding. They were having breakfast together, just the three of them, enjoying a rare quiet moment. What is it? Min-jun looked up from his coffee, immediately focused on her. Amara pulled out a small white stick and set it on the table. Min-jun stared at it, then at her, his eyes going wide. Is that what I think it is? I'm pregnant, Amara couldn't stop smiling. We're having a baby. Min-jun's chair crashed backward as he stood, crossing to her in 2 strides and lifting her into his arms. He spun her around, laughing with pure joy. A baby? We are having a baby? I'm going to be a big sister. Ji-woo shrieked, bouncing in her seat. Really? Really, really? Really, Amara confirmed, laughing as Min-jun set her down and immediately placed his hands on her still flat stomach. There is a baby in there, he said with wonder, looking at her with such love it made her eyes fill with tears. Our baby. He looked at her like she'd given him the entire universe. You have given me everything, Amara. Everything I never thought I would have again. A wife, a growing family, a reason to be better. You gave me the same, she said, cupping his face. You saved me when I was broken. You loved me when I thought I was unlovable. You gave me a daughter and a home and a purpose. They kissed deeply, Ji-woo making exaggerated grossed-out noises that made them laugh. Their son was born on a spring morning, tiny and perfect with a head full of black hair. They named him Kofi, honoring Amara's Ghanaian heritage. And the moment Min-jun held him for the first time, tears streaming down his face, Amara knew their family was complete. Thank you, he whispered to Amara as she rested in the hospital bed, exhausted but happy. Ji-woo cuddled beside her staring at her baby brother in wonder. Thank you for giving me this. For choosing me. For loving me. Thank you for finding me, Amara said. Or rather, thank you for having a daughter who found me on those church steps. Best day of my life, Min-jun said. Even if it did not feel like it at the time. Looking at her family now, her devoted husband, her sweet daughter, her precious newborn son, Amara could barely remember the pain of being abandoned at her first wedding. That heartbreak had led her here, to this moment, to this perfect happiness. She'd been broken and lost, sitting alone in a ruined wedding dress with nowhere to go and no one to call. Now she was whole and found, surrounded by love that felt infinite. I love you, Min-jun said, kissing her forehead gently. My brave, beautiful wife. The love of my life. My forever. I love you too, Amara said. Forever and always. And as she looked at her husband holding their son while their daughter chatted excitedly about all the things she'd teach her baby brother, Amara knew this was her happy ending. Not the one she'd planned, but the one she was meant to have all along. Sometimes the best love stories start with broken hearts. Sometimes you have to be abandoned to find where you truly belong. Sometimes the right person finds you when you least expect it, in the form of a 6-year-old girl with pigtails who says be my mom. And sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales do come true. You just have to be brave enough to believe in second chances. Thank you so much for watching Amara and Min-jun's beautiful love story. If this story touched your heart, made you believe in second chances, or just gave you all the feels, please hit that subscribe button right now. Your support means absolutely everything and helps me create more beautiful love stories like this one. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what was your favorite moment in the story, and should I make more stories about second chance romances? Drop your thoughts below and let's build this community of people who believe in true love together. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who believes in love, who's going through a hard time, or who just needs to be reminded that being abandoned doesn't mean you're not worthy of everything beautiful. Sometimes it just means something even better is waiting for you. Until next time, keep believing in love. Keep believing in second chances. And remember, your person is out there, maybe waiting on some church steps with a 6-year-old Cupid by their side.